Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Come on into this dimension. Come on into this cosmic grid update. And I'm so excited to be getting into this grid update with you guys as I have been deep diving the history and the lands of Germany over the last couple of weeks. As we know, there is some massive rich history that's there. And a lot has been coming up to the surface. A lot has been revealing itself in terms of where I'm being guided and where it does seem like we need to keep working in terms of releasing more of what is oppressed or stuck within the vault of Orion. Okay. And a beautiful comment that was actually put on the video prior to coming in, which says, please check notes in Germany Stargate sign up. Some history, locations, and personalities from Der Vaterland. Notice gender, fatherland. So yeah, fatherland. This is actually really key. This is something that after reviewing just the grids of Germany last night, I was tuning in more and more and more that really this is the eagle's nest. This is the Aquila's home. This is the Stargate of Aquila, uh, mixed in with a lot of galactic war history and all kinds of other stuff that's going on, which we're going to get into. But really, when we talk about the healing and the clearing and the cleansing that needs to come through Germany in terms of the remote work, the grid work, the boots on the ground work, essentially, this is really in the masculine templating. This is really in the masculine body, the wounding, the war-minded programming, the literally the modified genetics and DNA, hybridization, trauma, and programs that push the war-minded behavior. And so we're going to get into all of this. We're going to deep dive it. We're going to decode it as much as I possibly can. I want you guys to know that this is definitely very much a work in progress. So everything that we're talking about today is just taking literally like a little layer, a little look into this because there's so much with this. It's so deep. It's so hidden. It's so covered up. It's so wrapped in contracts of silence and codes and vows of silence. Um, Contracts of bondage, not being able to speak, not being able to transmit. This is very much blocked, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus, root chakra. I mean, this is really very much everything that has to do with the emotional depression and the emotional void of the collective and the consumption of the satanic ritual abuse on the planet. And everything that's kind of driving the continual fear set and distrust in humanity overall, right? Is by looking at the depth of the evil potential and the history of this that resides in Germany and what has happened from our past. So, just getting a feel into this, um, it does seem that, Germans themselves also carry a great weight with this, right? There's a lot of shame. There is a lot of guilt when it comes to what happened in World War II. And so a lot of people who live in Germany and who are descendants of this line, no matter where you live in the world, okay, there's a lot of having to take responsibility for what happened and what occurred in World War II. And so there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of oppression, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot being stuffed down on both the victim and the victimizer side of things. And the descendants of those original programs that ran in World War II, I talked about in my last update that it takes 7 generations to clear trauma in the bloodline, to clear trauma in your genetic inheritance, your ancestral inheritance. It takes 7 generations. Um, so we're only about 3 generations out from World War II. And that's significant. It means that we're kind of still in the middle of healing. We're still in the thick of healing. So we're going to get into all of this. Drop it down in the comments and say hello. Give me a shout out here. Put a 5 by 5. If you can hear me, I do have my little headset on today, and it is so hot out already here in Florida. I chose to sit outside though because it does seem to kind of cool in the middle of the day, like around noon. We do start to get a lot of showers that come in that kind of take the hot temperature down, but it's still very humid, still very humid. So yeah, we got Evie here, we got PJ here. Hey guys, I'm just drinking my celery juice today. I'm addicted to the celery juice now. It was carrots for a while, but now it's celery because it's such an amazing and beautiful detox when it comes in. I'll tell you what, the spice of the celery is just, it's on point. I love how it feels coming in. Feels really good. So, yeah. Um, Hope you guys can make it. So 8-8, we're doing the Germany Stargate and World War II land trauma gridwork remote session. And you can sign up to join me for this on my Patreon, patreon.com/IndigoAngel. You can also head over to my website at IndigoAngel222.com. And you can sign up under the services tab and you can come join me for working on Germany remotely and the Zoom work and the container work. And I really hope that you guys come because, everyone who's supposed to come does end up coming. That's just kind of how it works. That's the magic of these things. When you decide to put the word out for, your healings, your offerings, your mission work, is that I think the right people do ultimately align. And 8-8 is a very significant portal. It's a very significant gate, I think, particularly for the masculine. I do honestly sense, even though we're very connected to the feminine rising, but I'll tell you, the feminine rising can't ultimately, hold down every single alignment. Like right now with 8-8, I'm really picking up on a cleansing that's running through Orion, that's running through Sirius, that's running through all of the patriarchal domination, brotherhood leagues on the planet, right? Um, Everything that's coming through deep biblical father God wounding and religious Templars and the Knights Templars and everything that's really pertaining to his story, for over the last 12,000 years on this earth. We're getting so much, I think that's releasing from the masculine template as more of the draconian seals release. So, and a lot of these draconian seals are embedded into the lands of Germany. And what happened in terms of Galactic War 3? Okay, Galactic War 3. World War II on Earth was considered Galactic War 3 in the Orion system. Okay, and Galactic War 1 and the Orion system in the Rigel system would have been the original Atlantean cataclysm that happened and transpired in Rigel before it actually happened here on this Earth or on this planet. And so here on Earth, yeah, it's considered Galactic War 3. So we're still clearing a lot of intergenerational trauma globally from this conflict. It was the deadliest conflict in human history, and it really was due to a lot of temperamental and predatorial invasions that coincided with from the Lyran Wars and ultimately from the Orion Wars, but going even deeper into Earth's origins, pre-Earth's origins, going back into the Rigel system, going back into the Orion system. So there's a lot that is to be decoded, I think, on that galactic level in terms of the war history. I'm just going to take a look at the comments really quick. Spella is here. Thank you for doing this. Love from Slovenia. Oh, hey, girl. Yeah. Deborah. Yeah, come on in, guys. Um, I think this definitely has to be a gentle conversation because there's so much with this, right? Um, and so much we don't realize. I think it dawned on me really dawned on me during the United States grid work that we did, and we had quite a few people from Germany. And I had been picking up on things from before this. Of course, World War II has crossed my plate multiple times in the last 5 to 7 years of my esoteric research, but more recently, I've been getting the messages that this is the basis of the Vault of Orion. This is what is locked in the Vault of Orion. So if we go deep into the planetary history and Akashic records on this Earth, there is passageways that open up into the nebula systems in Orion, that open up into the Rigel system. There's stargates that go to the Orion system. The pyramids themselves are portals to the Orion system. Stargate Giza, the fourth dimensional stargate in Egypt, this is an Orion stargate, predominantly, first and foremost, even though the gate system, according to the race morphogenetic field, is linked into many other stargate systems. But predominantly, it's an Orion gate system. And there are countless images, holodecks, books, just etheric and astral records that are held in pools and reservoirs of oppressed and stuck war energy in the planet. Like, this is really what is carried amongst the soul burdens of the Earth's body and the Earth's spiritual body, is that she's carrying a massive amount of, um, I guess you could say, just like war codes, uncleared war codes, basically, that just run through because these wars are very costly in terms of human life. And so when you have massive amounts of people dying through torture, through holocaust, through genocide, through rips and tears in the space-time continuum, through unnatural death, like murderous acts of death. This definitely doesn't just leave detrimental marks on the people and the lineages and the races in which are subjugated to that, but it also leaves demarkification within the Earth's soul body as well. Okay, and so what I see more and more is that in between the passageways of life and death, that these war codes are difficult for the Earth even to purge and cleanse. Because World War II was definitely the costliest in terms of human life on the planet. I mean, this was a mass exit. I mean, 55 million were killed and battled and bombed out of cities. On a galactic level, I was getting those numbers were even more astronomical as the war was playing out in the Orion system simultaneously to it playing out on Earth, and that there are over 155 million on a cosmic level, if not more, beyond that, fatalities from the Orion system. And this was all definitely an inside interplanetary job to cover up I think the wars that had been playing out in Rigel, and I've talked about this before briefly in a couple previous updates, one that I did more recently with Rob from TSP, but I also talked about it, I think the update that I did before, that these are wars ultimately between particular hybridized factions. I think there's multiple of them that are involved, but mostly between Zeta Gray Rigelian hybrids versus Draco Rigelian Nordic reptilians and empires and leagues. And so, I mean, this is really kind of what's standing behind what we would say the victim victimizer programs, or what's standing behind um, victims of the Holocaust and perpetrators of the Holocaust, is that these lineages, in one way or another, whether they're factioned off, because I do think they're factioned off through the Aquila races as well, but they're all, a part of this, and it's all been remained hidden involvement of negative ET involvement that had a massive influence on it. This is what's ultimately hidden. You know, um, it's wars that have been over power, wars that have been over accessing advanced alien technology and weaponization systems, technological and biological mind control. Okay, colonized space territory as well. They're fighting over colonies in the Rigel system. They're fighting over land, worlds in the Rigel system. They're fighting over it here on Earth in terms of resources, in terms of domination and superiority. Um, it's been about massive human blood sacrifice, extermination, annihilation out of the worlds, okay, and galactic reaping and soul harvesting on the astral planes. And let's face it, I mean, there's clearly just what runs the temperament of these things is just disgust, unacceptance, hatred, for anything that's not seen in the perfection of God, right? And the things that are seen in the supposedly in the perfection of God, or who's taken claim or ownership of these things in terms of the race lines that are involved, also suffer detrimental karmic retribution for um, making claims in the world of certain things as well. There's so much hidden that goes into all of this. So I do believe that World War II and what you would call Galactic World War III, that these were initiated as Rigelian treaties, war agreements that basically brought a lot of the off-world governments and allied forces together to really actually work under one unified thing. And this was to continue to initiate the Zeta Hive collective control. Okay. And this does stem and tap off of biblical revelations, the trumpets that we've been talking about, the four horsemen. Um, Planetary weapon systems that were brought in from Rigel to detonate the first Atlantean flood on this planet and use this technology against the inhabiting hybrids of these Rigelian race lines and basically attack certain lines because they are existing within the genetic code of a particular race line from Orion unconsciously and unaware of these things. But the detonators went off to basically flood the Earth to annihilate certain races and to regain ownership over this planet and regain ownership over certain lands. And so Germany is definitely one of these targeted places, given that for one, there's a lot of massive stargates that are here that are hidden and unknown and unseen. So we're gonna talk about a lot of that today, like where are some of the areas that I think maybe Stargate locations. Um, there's a lot of when we're talking about the Rigelian gray hybrids, okay, that they've set up a lot of gray bunkers within the outskirts of Germany to for ownership and control of certain energies there within the Templedine. I think this really goes back to the heart of the Aquila Stargate. So I think that the heart of the Aquila Stargate resides here, and that there are Earth planetary axial tonal lines to the cosmological alignments of Aquila. And so this is a power source, it's a power system in which these gray hubs and these gray underground facilities are trying to tap into. Um, there's also, and then there's also the castles. The castle systems there in Germany are very interesting. A lot of these castles were used for occult magic in terms of World War II and the Nazis and Hitler and Himmler and things like this, that they were tapping into these streamlines, these Stargate energies for their castles, where they built their castles and the ley lines that aligned everything. So really complex. And I'm gonna switch over to my map here in just a minute so we can actually go over all of it. Just checking out the comments again really quick. Hey Em, hey Pia. Hey guys, come on in. We're just getting started. I'm drinking my celery juice. Bella says, we are my group deep in working on the whole Yugoslavian trauma grids right now, the cortisol level, and I was really happy seeing you do this as we already did some, but it's just mind blowing. Three mind blowing symbols. It really is. How much is here for us to look at? I mean, it's hard to take it all in. I'll be honest with you. There's so much information. There's so much details. There's so much hidden perception, hidden truth that it's really hard to decode from any particular angle because any if you start to take any sort of human persuasion in any direction, you're going to be labeled either as an anti-Semite or you're going to be labeled as a Nazi yourself, basically. So, you can, within that, just that alone, the knowingness of that and the delicateness of even the way you talk about these things, I think that in itself is enough fear to push people away from wanting to help, to try to help. So, because the persecution wounding, the Aryan trauma, okay, because we're very much in the bounds of the Aryan root races and timelines. I have a little bug flying around here. That it's just so very fresh within everything. All of this is very fresh within the Aryan timelines. It's within the bulk of this generation's trauma wounds and collective pain body points. And so everything really emotionally hurts with this. Whether it's unconscious, subconscious, um, but there's just so much fear and it's still running. It's all still very active. And so it requires a lot of tolerance to be able to shift through all of this information. Requires a lot of um, patience. It requires a lot of being healed and expanded enough to really see the shadow aspects of what people are dealing with, the disdain, the regret, the cruelty, um, just the weight of it all. Just, so the struggle is very real. And it's been locked deep in an internal struggle of light and dark for, well, since the 1930s, basically, 1945, from 1930s to 1945. I mean, this is, the bulk of that timeline period, but it had been building up for a while. You talk about all the world wars, World War One, Vietnam, all of these things. It's it's a cumulative pressure points within the grids that hold that energy locked into the land. And so I think the seals are beginning to release there. And this is what I've been seeing more and more is that the draconian seals that were placed along the central column of the planet along to the right side, axial tonal lines, the six tonal lines and meridian lines of the planet, also within the body, the masculine side, that these are starting to release as our masculines begin to heal, as our masculines begin to awaken more and more. It's really through this body that the Draco systems and templates, even this work being done, whether you're female or masculine, right? It's releasing the tyrannical death seals of what the Nordic Rigelian, Draconic, white royalty lines and leagues have placed. Okay, and we're waking up to the planetary weaponry that they've placed and those seals. So they are releasing. And they're releasing within the Aryan race because a lot of the awakening is happening through the Aryan timelines. And so, because every root race is a descendant of their forefathers that came before. A lot gets passed down, right? The occult wisdom, the technology, the sciences, the mathematics, the alchemy, all the descended knowledge is more advanced as we awaken within the next generation. We get more advanced within the next predecession that takes place. And so we're waking up more within the Aryan timeline. This is what's illuminating the Aryan timeline. The vault of Orion is in the Aryan timeline. And so this is really about being ready to kind of open this up, to release the souls, to release the trauma, to release the pressure, to release what has to cross, pass, and clear. There's so much stuck in the soul river lines in Germany. There's so much stuck in the Stargates there. The Stargates genuinely need a cleansing there. So, and if we don't work on Germany, Okay, if we don't work to heal and reveal the truths, if we don't take a stand and make global healing a priority, okay, this probably is one of the greatest dangers to Earth's population as we head into the sixth subrace. This is the greatest danger is to not address this. And this is we have to work so hard against the programming because even Germans themselves, after the Nuremberg trials, right? Nobody's allowed to speak about this stuff in Germany. Like they're not allowed to talk about this. Like this is against the law. Like you can't bring this stuff up. So everything that does happen or is organizing there is secret occult, secret underground. Really, really, it put a door, a closed door on the ability to ascend because of the comparison of the mindsets with those parties, the Hitler Party, the Nazi Party, the SS, whatever, that ascension is coinciding with evil, right? Because there was so much occult magic and so much what's perceived as satanic ritual abuse of that magic, of sacred knowledge, the Vril knowledge, all of this, right? Coincided it with evil. So now, like the door and the gate and the vault is completely closed and shut, and people there are only really to operate within a certain framework of consciousness development, openly, publicly, whatever it is, right? Because there's also fear around growth, ascension, and bringing forth new knowledge and unlocking it. So this just shows you kind of the coping mechanisms of humanity is to just push it all under the rug, act like, we know it happened. But at the same time, they're trying to brainwash and program the collective to act like it didn't happen. Okay, because one of the things, just going back to my own grandmother, okay, growing up when I was a little girl, was my grandma used to work at the Allegheny College in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and she would come home all the time and she would say that in the college, that none of these college students even knew that the Holocaust happened, that the Holocaust existed, that in these colleges, they're trying to suppress all of it. They're trying to keep this knowledge out of the hands of the young minds and really just try to get everyone to kind of forget. Em says when they do the circumcision on the male, that is the first blood sacrifice that makes a masculine less sensitive to the feminine. That is one of the most sensitive psychic parts of the male body. Right. And that came down through Abraham, I believe. So this kind of started with the false alien god invasions. All of this really started with the false alien god invasions of Yahweh, right? And that is one of the biggest casted SRAs. So yeah, that's huge. That's huge. But that goes back to the betrayal wounds and the Holocaust that took place in Lemuria. All of these Holocausts are ultimately connected. So I think today I'm gonna share my map with you guys. Let me go to my Zoom share part, get on the right screen here. How's everyone feeling today? I actually have a meeting today with Dr. Michael Sala. Supposed to be meeting him today at noon, so I'm really excited about that. And oh my gosh, it is hot out here. It is hot, hot, hot. Okay, so I did a lot of charting last night on Germany, so I'm just gonna switch over now. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen. Okay, so one thing that I've gotten from definitely studying Asha and Adin's work. So she left some things kind of open-ended within all of these teachings as well when it comes to understanding. And I think this goes back ultimately to understanding a lot of the origins of the Jewish people. The fact that they don't really have any like true origin. I mean, everything kind of technically goes back to Israel and back to the Hebrew Israelites, but on a galactic level, I do feel that this goes back to the hand of the creator and the creators of the original divine human DNA gene code and the original bloodlines used to create that pertaining to what I see as the blood codes of the Zionites, which are a galactic race in which we don't know a lot of information ultimately about. Like, where did the Zionite strain constitution come from in terms of a master race? Okay, because if these bloodlines, these descended Hebraic bloodlines were of this master race, and this goes beyond our Earth history, then you can see that the splicing altogether of human gene code on world or off world is kind of at the basis of the war, really, technically, um, going off of and out of Germany itself. So, according to this, it was the Zetas who drew genetic material. Okay, and this comes from the Zionites. And historically, these are the ones that this cultivated. This must have, I think that this cultivated in the Orion system, and that Tara, we might be mistaken that Tara was also in Orion, and that these Zionites were the original, and this would be the Hebraic. Okay, the Zionites would have been the genetic created from the Zeta, all coming from Rigel. They would have been the original material for this. Okay, and but these race lines were experimented on in Rigel. So the experiments or World War II, um, these race lines were used to basically it was to experiment on like euthanasia. These are about euthanasia programs. And I think the euthanasia goes into the Rigelian system where they're experimenting on types of euthanasia programs, right? Like how to mass genocide. That was the experimentation programs themselves, was how to figure out if these types of poisons or chemicals, which poisons, which chemicals were to lead the euthanasia. Now, this goes back because I think this is what they were doing in Rigel. Okay, it goes back to the Zeta in conjunction with all of this. So the Zetas see the Zionite line or the Hebraic line as somehow tamperable. Somehow there's something within that gene code that makes it okay on there's some galactic contract that they think they can experiment on these types. I don't fully understand that predatorial type war-minded authority or um I guess it would be like the domination codes of that, right? There's something that makes them feel entitled to sledging out that race, basically. So a lot of this goes back to this. And we brought this back to the Horn of Africa. So if you look at my map here, some interesting things that we picked up on. A lot of this really kind of begins down here. You know, we have a massive Orion Stargate system here in the Gulf of Aden, underwater Orion gateways and passageways through the Gulf of Aden. The Red Sea, we know entirely, has been known for underwater Orion blackwater operations that run up through Saudi Arabia. The Ark of the Covenant was here in Ethiopia, which is very significant to King of Solomon, King of the Jews. Okay. We have the Anunnaki Stargate ports that run here. So we know the origination of going prior to World War II. Like this goes back to the Exodus and all of these things, right? And where these bloodlines, I think, ultimately took port. There's something here with the Horn of Africa. if you draw this ley line here directly up to and through Giza Stargate, which it runs directly through Giza, this takes us directly into the Eagle's Nest, which was Hitler's home. Okay, and if you follow that even further up, it takes us to, there's another important place here. It's the castle that Heimler, where they did all of their ritual work in. So it traverses through all the way through Germany. This ley line runs all the way down through Hitler's home, runs all the way down through to the Giza Stargate, all the way down to the Horn of Africa. Now, what's at the Horn of Africa is the history, yeah, with King of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This is kind of where a lot of this kind of began, right? She's the first figure mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, a caravan of valuable gifts for the Israelite king of Solomon. Okay, this has undergone extensive Jewish, Islamic, and Yemenite and Ethiopian elaborations, and it's one of the most widespread and fertile cycles of the legends. Fertile cycles of legends. Fertile legends. Okay, so this is like fertile, right? We think about the race morphogenetic field and the Zetas and the Orions and the Regalians coming into this Earth, them coming in as genetic manipulators and modifiers, and they're coming in through the Horn of Africa, where really these humble beginnings actually begin. You know, it all kind of begins here. So this is where the race lines initiated, but this is where the contention also initiated as well. The efforts, and then also bringing into this planet already broken down genetics, right? Coming in, already being force bred off of the planet and the systems in Orion and Rigel, already being experimented on from Rigel, already coming in with the fallen Atlantean codes from Rigel through the Horn of Africa. That's somehow gotten twisted and manipulated. So I'm just telling you guys my findings. Could I be right? Could I be wrong? Completely wrong? I could be. But I mean, I'm just following the trail. Okay, I'm following the alignments. I'm following the ley lines. I'm following the Soul River lines. I'm following where Source is guiding me to look in terms of this. And it brings us to the distortions with the Zionist. Um, the Jewish hybrids, the Hebrews, the Anunnaki, and the Zeta Regalian Gray hybrid resistance. I think they're all kind of grouped as one faction really coming in. Some of them are more fortunate or less fortunate, depending where they are within the modifications and manipulation of that DNA and what the agenda is from their soul origins in the Rigel system, warring with Draco Rigelian Nordic reptilians over master race supremacy adequacy in the galaxy. In the galaxy. Okay, so not just here in Germany. This is where we have to really anchor Galactic War history into World War II to see kind of the backdrop of everything that's occurring. Now, it's said that the Second World War is when the Rigelians of many different factions and types first came into communication with humans directly. And that it actually came in around the final activation stages of the atomic bomb. But I don't think that's the case. I think they've been shape-shifting here on the planet for quite some time. Again, this goes back to World War I and Vietnam. It's just that it was manifested through the greater interest of the Nazi experimentation with the genetics. Okay, because this is the World War II was technically like the greatest experimentation of the, again, the euthanasia programs. Okay, so basically the Zetas, Rigelian, Draco, Nordic lines, they took interest in Hitler's regime. And this began to dwindle over disagreements. Okay, but they've been involved, right? They've been involved this whole time. Basically, doing religious grouping, running the superior genetic codes, and tampering with the human prototypes that didn't carry particular codings to these things as well. There's a lot of experiments running on both sides, opposing factions basically that were occurring. But I think the Zetas overall have like a strange interest in this genetic strain and that they are protecting it at all costs. I've talked about in some of my previous updates that I think they're hiding certain strains in certain places, such as the Amish people. The Amish people here in the United States. Between Israel and the United States, we hold the highest um, population of Jewish people in the entire world. Okay, so the homeland, the safety lands for the Jewish types, which have no land, no technically no religion, no kind, no creed, whatever the mystery box is with them, they mostly reside in Israel. They mostly reside in the United States. Okay, but I think particular strains of this are protected and hidden in society, such as the Amish. I think the Amish are actually Jews from World War II from Germany that have technically like this is where it comes from, the Yiddish and the Pennsylvania Dutch. It goes back to Germany. So yeah, it's quite complex, but um that's kind of what I'm seeing there with that. And so overall, guys, I don't think globally or worldwide that we like to admit that we're still working through this. But we are. But we are. I see the afflictions just in people's communication. I see the temperament and the flare and the rage get completely activated and like almost like a mind wiping system comes in, especially if people just even start tuning into Hitler's field and his frequency and just like the history of it. Like people start talking about it, they're immediately taken up a notch. Okay, there is a level of aggression that comes in. So because what everything that ultimately happened, okay, and it offered up the most evil that humanity had to offer. It's undeniable to those of you who are doing the grid work at this time. It's completely undeniable. You can see the spiritual and emotional devastation that's built up all over the world as a result from this. Every time that we do grid work clearings, no matter where we're working, World War II comes up, connection points to this. Even just the Kauai mission that we're doing in September, which we still have openings for if you want to head down to Kauai with us. We still have some packages available for Hawaii. I mean, you have Honolulu, you have Pearl Harbor. There's also a clearing for World War II that we need to do when we go to Kauai. So just from doing grid work, you can see as a result how much the Vault of Orion is locked in Stargates, it's locked in ley lines, it's locked in genocidal and Holocaust locations, it's locked in the death camps still in Germany. Okay, that was another thing that we needed to focus on was the death camp locations. A lot of them are, and I didn't chart a lot of them on here, there's just way too many to put on. But I mean, a lot of them are in Poland. I have some pictures here actually. Okay, and this is Auschwitz. Okay, and Auschwitz is significant, right? Significant for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, um, this was one of the most major death camps that they had. There was so many of them. There was so many of them, but um, I don't know, like worldwide, like how much clearing work has gone on at these places. Have there been mass grid work events that have focused on these death camps? I mean, I'm unaware of any sort of like organizing of healings. I mean, I guess it's just simply not allowed. it's actually just genuinely, I don't think it's allowed that we can go and, do collective clearing or healings for these sites. But I mean, it's definitely needed. So yeah, we have to focus on the death camps. Um, these are some of the barracks inside them. These are just stuff that I was like pictures I was getting online when I was looking over some of this stuff. I think one of the main means that they did, well, how this actually started, now this is what's interesting about this, you guys, is it's not just like these death camps popped up out of nowhere. And this is what's crazy about all of this is I think those of us that are not familiar with the history, we just think that, oh, Hitler was like entirely evil and these death camps just like this is just what they were and it came out and it was actually like a slow progression. This was a very slow progression and it started with children, actually. It started with infants and children in the beginning. In the beginning, they wanted to I guess annihilate children that had any sort of mental or physical disabilities. They didn't want um any member of their society to be like disabled, to be inferior, so to speak. So it started in their medical system. It started with medical tyranny. And again, this is how this brought up so much reactivation of these wounded codes when the La Cucaracha happened, when 2020 happened, when COVID happened, because we basically how these traumas work, how these trigger event traumas work in the grids and in the lands and in the recurrences of reality is that the templating reemerges when we have similar happenings, right? And we talk about who's at the head of the World Health Organization. I mean, we talk about them being the Zionites, right? You see the reverse like calamity, the reverse psychopathic distortion that's in all of this. And we talk about who's ahead of the needlecraft technology, the Zionites. Does this make any sense? Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that they didn't start with just, oh, they're death camps. It started with the government issuing things to their healthcare providers saying that as you check children in for their medical appointments as children come in for their pediatrics, that if they're showing any signs of disabilities, if they're showing any signs of something being wrong mentally or physically, that this be reported. Okay, so then they would report it, and then those children would be taken to a deeper level of an evaluation. And if that evaluation determined that, yeah, they do have a disorder, that they're not going to be a sufficient member of German society, that then they would be sent to the euthanasia programs. Okay, and so then there would be a lot of deception within this. Then the parents, after this child would be euthanized, they would then get a death certificate that would say that they died from natural causes. Okay, so people didn't know what was going on. People didn't know for a long time how secretly this was being organized and orchestrated against them through medical tyranny. Okay, this is why the scientists and the doctors played such a huge role in all of this. And I couldn't figure out for a long time why the doctors, like, I didn't get like doctors. Why did they need doctors? They needed doctors because of the experimentation of euthanizing, right? It started with experimenting with carbon monoxide and carbon gases, right? And like doing it this way. And then it moved into something else that they used that they found worked better. But they were experimenting. I can't remember what it was. I'm just trying to think. Something Darkle B. It's called Darkle B. Drop it down in the comments if you know what they used to issue in the gas chambers. Um, Trying to flip through some of my notes here, see if I wrote it down. But it's but yeah, and that turned from small locations to then they organized it through the military. Okay, once they decided that they were going to expand this beyond just medical, right, and into like the religious belief, right, or race superiority, where it's like now they're going to go round up people. Then they took it from just smaller euthanasia programs, and they created gas trucks, like gassing and killing trucks. And then from the gas and killing trucks, then they took it to create the actual extermination and concentration camps themselves. Okay, and this is how Auschwitz and some of the other ones were ultimately founded. So, yeah, I think that focusing on places like this in terms of the grid work for clearing, I mean, there's definitely like a death camp clearing that has to come through for people that are holding ancestral inheritances on both sides of this, wherever they sat within the world war of this, whether they're on the victim side or the victimized side of this, because um, surely there was a lot of PTSD and trauma that's been handed down, right, from this. And it's all inherited through our blood codes. The memory of it is inherited through our blood codes and also our past lives as well. Many of us had past lives where we were actually in these gas chambers. I mean, even if you go to Washington, D.C. here in the United States, I mean, we have a massive World War II memorial center where um, it's just like an entire museum that walks you through what life was like as a Holocaust victim. And this was something we actually did when we went to Washington, D.C. When we did our Washington, D.C. mission, we went to this place and we walked through this entire memorial. And it was they took you through the experience like as if you were a child trying to live through it and escape it. You went into little houses, little spaces, they hid you in rooms. They walked you through basically like a death march, and they walked you basically into the expectation of going into a gas chamber. Okay, so I mean, you can have this experience literally in our capital. So it's something that I think they try to honor it. They try to honor it in a way and try to teach about it here, but I don't feel that, these places have been truly or entirely cleared in terms of the grids. Let me see if I can find that location. Treblinka was one. So this was one of the biggest ones compared to Auschwitz. Auschwitz is here, and then Treblinka. There's a couple uh, memorial locations with Treblinka. But what's interesting is most of the death camps were in Poland, which to me is like, so does that mean that the bulk of the Jewish Holocaust victims were of Polish descent? I mean, it would seem that that would be kind of the case. Gio says, I didn't realize I have autism till recently, heightened sensitivity due to energy trauma masked my gifts. And I wonder if things like autism, that these are not results of victims of the Holocaust, people being gassed in the chambers, having these horrific and tragic, murderous, chemical polluted type deaths. I mean, they do things to the body in the processes of transition, also as well. Like, just for example, like if someone is to die from decapitation, that there is no dispersive DMT from the pineal to the point of death. And so because of that, it creates all kinds of mass blockages in the life and death processes because the proper death experiences are not occurring in the body. Okay, it's the same thing with these mass death camps and the way that these people went out, that it could have created um, a mass stigma in terms of rebirthing in the new root races and the new cycles and the new civilizations, given that it takes, again, 7 generations for these things to clear.
Bella says, we were scared, programmed by this, even when I was growing up by our grandmother, father wounds, deep trauma wound, really. Well, and that's the thing about it, whether, yeah, again, no matter what side you're sitting on, whether you're a Holocaust victim or whether your parents were in the war as a Nazi or as a German who had to sit on this side of this, whether you agreed with it or not, you know, where are all the families of the descendants of the Nazi families? Like these people are also deeply, wounded and traumatized by this as well. Even though they're not going to take on this is a lot of the mentality is that they feel that they're not going to take on the persecution of being accountable or responsible for this, right? Like, how can I be responsible for something that happened in my grandfather's generation? I wasn't a part of that. And like, that's true. Like, if you look, even for me as an American, like, if I look back at like the presidents, in 1940, like Truman and Eisenhower, like what happened then, the decisions they made, like how can I take that on or be responsible for that in this incarnation? But what we do take on is the blame, is the shame, is the regret, is the guilt. We incarnate with that within our mitochondria. It actually comes in through our chromosomes. So yeah, there's a lot that we have to work to clear. Um, Let me go back to my pictures here. This castle is very, very significant. This is the Wellisburg Castle. So this castle it was designed by the SS leader Heinrich Himmler to be the capital of the Nazi global empire after World War II. Houses the world's first exhibition about Adolf Hitler's murderous SS opening on April 15th. Um, this is a very significant place. This is probably one of the most world famous spots according to these events. There's several rooms in this castle that are really that pertain to all of the black magic and ritual stuff that Hitler did. Um, so Heimler, he was second in command to Adolf Hitler. He was the architect of the Holocaust. So he had this castle built for basically for spell work. Basically for spell work. This is where all of the inner circle of his advisors, they met in secret rooms in this castle and they meditated nightly. Okay, they used magical rituals from their initiations into their secret societies that they brought in. Um, a lot of the Nazi leaders and the advanced ones in his party, they had degrees as initiates of the ancient Vril society from Atlantis. Okay, and they brought all of this in. This was all reverberated through the secret chambers of this castle. Um, and they were like building the organization. Okay, so the members had to prove that they didn't have Jewish ancestry. They had to receive military training. They had to be basically indoctrinated into the elite party of the Nazi party. It had over 250,000 members, were involved in various activities, including intelligence work, running concentration camps. It was declared a criminal organization at the Nuremberg trials. But this basically, I mean, this castle ran with all of the key points of what happened. So this is a very significant castle. It was built at the beginning 1921 to 1925, which was the beginning of the party and the promotion of the nationalism and the anti-Semitism. And it went all the way to now. Like it's still like you could visit this place. But what's most significant is these rooms in the castle. And shout out to the Divine Sister because she sent me some pictures and stuff like this. She actually came and signed up for the Germany grid work and she sent me some pictures. So thank you so much. You know who you are. She sent it on my messenger on my website. So thank you so much. Um, But but this room, I mean, this is connected to the Brotherhood of the Golden Dawn. This is connected to the famous magician Aleister Crowley and to the elite members of the Knights of Malta. Mussolini's Italian commanders were hired in allegiances to be a part of this. The Thule Society in Germany is connected to this. What's interesting is they believed in these, rooms with their worship that they believed that the Aryans were descendants from the supermen who ruled the planet from the Thule in the Golden Age. And the Aryans were destined to rule the planet in the future Golden Age. So they were connecting into the Golden Ages. And the Nordic blonde-haired, blue-eyed race, which originated from the Lyran constellation, was the original super race on the planet in the pre-Sirian Earth. Okay, so there's something within these Drac lines that came from Lyra and warred with Drac lines, I think, in Orion, but also against the Rigelian, Anunnaki, and Grey Zeta factions as well, right? This is why I think the Lyran Wars, there's deception in the Lyran Wars. A lot of people, I think, claim to be connected to the Lyran Wars, but I think there's such a huge, like, mind control programming. I almost feel like the Lyran Wars is an MK Ultra program, and that all the super soldier stuff, like all of this, you know, this ties into this stuff, that there's something really inaccurate and false within the Lyran war history that I can't completely wrap my mind around it. When I actually tune into it psychically, what I see is that yes, was Lyra invaded by Thuban or the Dracos? Yes, I do think that happened, but I think they were betrayed first by Aquila. Aquila came in and had something to do with this first. So it has to do with the warfare between the Stymphalian birds first. The Nazis believed that planetary cataclysms before the end of this century would destroy civilization on our planet, and the masters of the world would emerge from inside the Earth to lead the Nazis to rule the world. It was the destiny of the Nazis to exterminate the other races from foreign planets. From foreign planets. So it's not just Earth. This, again, goes beyond. Interfered with their perceived evolution on Earth so that the original Thule Aryan race remained. And yeah, so we know that he regarded the Jews as an inferior race from another planet. And I guess he actually wrote this. He actually wrote that he thought the Jews were an inferior race from another planet. Again, I think this ties into the Zionites and what the Zetas did to tamper and create that race, starting going back down to the Horn of Africa. Hitler was trained by psychics in Austria, and he was taught how to hypnotize people and put them into trance so they could be controlled. This is how he mesmerized his generals to follow his orders like robots, even when they were intellectually and totally opposed. He had deep gazing hypnotic stare from a very controlling gaze. He also had an official psychic department in his government that was exposed after the war when troops ravaged Berlin. A few highly paid, highly secret, highly trained psychics reportedly mastered astral projection or out of the body travel and used it to spy on the enemy before battles. When we talk about Maria Orsic, which I know you guys know about her, um, and she's accredited for actually bringing forth the technology of the flying saucer. After World War II, the top German scientists who gave Hitler his rocket jet superior air force became U.S. citizens and invented the American military rocket program, American jet planes, NASA space program. Okay, NASA space program coming from World War II. We've talked about NASA space program being completely hijacked and this false, basically corrupted corporation that is implanted to keep humanity in the dark about the galactic wars that are occurring, that we're colonized on Mars already, that we're colonized on Venus already, that stuff's going on down on Saturn already, and it's been going down. It's been going down in the Rigel system. It's been going on in the Orion system but NASA was designed basically to be the gateway that closes the door on humanity from knowing about these things. So, yeah, all of the surviving elite from the SS and the Nazi Gestapo became the US's intelligence systems. Okay, so we're just tying in all the corruption, all the corruption. Um, so yeah, basically things got really, really corrupted. They just continued to go downhill, as we know. Things were stopped. Um, I'm not going to go into more of that. I feel like there's just so much. Basically the Nordics, I would say, who mostly sponsored Hitler, if he wasn't a Nordic himself. He wasn't a Nordic himself. And I've said before in other videos, I feel like Hitler was an incarnate from the Regal system. He may have been a Nordic who originated from Lyra and was a part of the Lyran deception and wars that occurred and was displaced from the Regal system. And that's why he came in within such a vengeance. Okay, but there were beings supporting him, Nordic supporting him from the Regal system, but would have been deemed a bad investment. Okay, would have been deemed a bad investment because I think there was a lot lost. There was just billions and billions of dollars that were lost in all of this. And also, there's a factor of drugs being involved, like Hitler being under the influence of LSD and cocaine, and that a lot of these things were actually like regular things that partook and took place, especially within these ritual rooms, even, right? Taking LSD and working within their ritual room here. So things definitely got distorted. They got very, very distorted. They said a lot of times they would find him just kind of like swaying around and looking very dazed and looking through these rooms as if he was lost or if he was like uttering. Um, but I think what he opened the gate for was for the gray programs to come in for abduction as well. A lot of this had been opened up, I think, through Hitler, that he opened up the door for grays to abduct. And again, this all coming back to the evading Orion Empire. So there's been I think there's so many wars because they're trying to reclaim the Empire of Orion. It's going back to that. They're trying to reclaim from the fall of the first intergalactic war from Orion. They're trying to reclaim what they lost in the original fall of Atlantis from that time. So, yeah, this castle is crazy. This room right here is called the Crypt. This is They call it the ideology and terror of the SS. And it's a circular crypt that has a gas pipe in the floor for an eternal flame, a swastika on the ceiling, and 12 pedestals at even intervals around the walls. The castle designed by Mr. Himmler to be the spiritual home of the Nazi global empire. Um, and this is basically, I mean, you can just tell by looking at this room. It's just like so crazy what they were doing in here. You could tell it's a massive ritual room. There's like the 12 pillars represent, they were working with massive occult like ritual devices and technology. I mean, working with the Nazi symbol in itself is basically like commanding the core power of the metagalactic core. I mean, the swastika itself is a representation of the geometry of our metagalactic core. So they were utilizing this power. They were anchoring the thrust of the magnetism of our metagalactic core into everything that they were doing. So it was very generated, very powered, and very initiated through the occult. Um, these were rooms called the Doom Room. This is the room of the black sun wheel, so you can't really see it on the floor here all that well, but the black sun wheel is on the floor there. That's an implant. That has to be extracted, you guys. That's a Draco implant. That's a Nordic Zeta Rigelian Draco implant that has to be removed. I could tell you guys about that implant. The black sunwheel is a type of sunwheel symbol originating in Nazi Germany, and it's consisting of 12 radial signature runes, similar to the symbols employed by the SS in their logo. It appeared in the castle, and so it's implanted here. And this also shows up in people's fields, right? Like energetically, when ancestrally they're encoded to this war. They're encoded through their ancestry. They'll have the black sun wheel show up in their 10th strand, and it's a warfare code, literally implant in their strand, right? Um, it ties them into the fear and all of the activation, like a mind control program, basically, that runs all the recent world wars into their system. Okay, static electricity, radiation, it reruns the memories and the pain bodies of the Holocaust into their system. It reruns the global bombing events of most of the recent times in history into their system. Um, it holds the karma to these actions inside of their body on an unconscious level. Okay, and it runs it in from their past lives. It plugs their past lives back into this, like an entrapment, like an enslavement system. And it allows the dark forces to weaken their fields, weaken their consciousness. Um, it connects into the dark military operations, the intelligence systems, and the continued thought patterns in the planet that run into the mass ethnic cleansings and extermination events on the planet. And the Dark Brotherhood war rituals. It keeps these things active and alive and generated as an impulse in their DNA. So it has to be removed out of this castle, out of the earth, out of the planet. Like we have to remove the black sun wheel out of the control of the vault of Orion, essentially, in terms of grid work. The 12 pillars was very significant for them. Going back to the 12 pillars, I remembered what I was going to say about that. It's because the SS was divided into 12 departments and they had 12 leaders. And so the 12 leaders of the SS would stand with the 12 pillars and they would stand on pedestals in the vault. Okay. And then they would run the spokes of the black sun wheel into the 12 pedestals. Okay. This is how they implanted it, you guys. This is how they implanted the black sun wheel into humanity. Like a crucifixion wound, like a stigmata wound. It is an active Draco seal, still inflicting all of this specifically on the German people first and foremost, but then on the spiritual centers of the rest of the world. So, because they truly believed that the SS would become the priest of the new world. That's what they thought. So that's why they implanted this. So they were trying to prepare those units spiritually for being the commanders of the world, of the new world. Okay, and they would run rings in them. They would run rings and they would run skulls and they would run mystic symbols. Okay, they would run death head rings into them. Um, things like this, the skull and bones. This is the Totenkopf. I think I had this here. Yeah, this is the Totenkopf. So they would run the skull, the human skull, usually frontal, Okay. Wikipedia is not going to give us like the occult symbolism of it, but I mean, it's here. You can read this page if you want to. But basically, the Totenkopf, and they would run this symbol into their SS leaders who were supposed to head the New World. Now, they said that they ran 11,500 rings, but nobody knows where the rings went. So apparently, there's like 11,500 rings that were buried in a nearby mountain somewhere in Germany. And this is a part of the grid work that we have to look at, right? This was, what was this one I had here? Okay, it's right there. I'm like, I had to go find it. So Wellisburg, yeah, this is where it's located. So that means that those rings are probably buried somewhere around within the mountains. There's rings that are bit really, I'll be honest with you, this to me, this whole area here, so this is the Eagle's Nest. This was actually Hitler's like lookout point. This is a very interesting spot, you guys. This is like at the top of a mountain, which borders the, I'm just going to tune into it here so you guys can see, which borders Austria. It sits like at the top, so you have to come up this windy hill to the top of a mountain. I wouldn't be surprised if those rings are buried somewhere around the eagle's nest. But in terms of the grid work clearing, we have to clear these rings, okay, that are buried in the nearby mountain. The picture of this is here. So let me go back to here. This is the location of this at the top of that mountain. This was Hitler's, the Eagle's Nest. And there's underground tunnels to this, of course, right? I think these underground tunnels lead to the gray bases that I've decoded. And look at this forest. There's like all this like misty gray like mist in the forest, which makes it kind of creepy. But the Eagle's Nest, yeah, this is like a super significant place. It is a Nazi-constructed building erected atop the summit of Kelstein, a rocky outcrop that rises above Obersalzberg near the southeast German town of Berchtesgaden. It was used exclusively by members of the Nazi Party for government and social meetings. It was visited on 14 documented instances by Adolf Hitler. Today it's a tourist site, but it's said that there was a lot of spell casting here. A lot of spell casting at the top of this point. Let me go back to the map with that. Again, why I'm saying if you look at the triangulation here, this is a key point as well. Because according to the future Golden Earth expansion, us coming into the time of the New Age, Germany is supposed to be one of the locations of the Golden Light City. There is supposed to be a Golden Light City in Germany. It's called the Bronze City. And the Bronze City will represent the positive expansion of the fatherland of the masculine energies. This is why I told you in the beginning, this comes back to the masculine energies being healed because the Golden Light City Braun, which you can look this up in Loria Del Toy's work and the I Am America maps, she talks about the Golden Light City of Braun being the expansion of glory and the expansion of masculine strength, rising, basically, rising in purity. And there's a lot of like it's glory and achievement, masculine energy and glory and achievement. So the rising of this golden light city is about trusting male energy again. Protectors, protectors versus predators, standing up into their power. And so the eagle's nest, the location of the Braun Light City to emerge, and then all of the intersecting ley lines connecting us to Berlin, where the last World War II wall had fallen, this ley line connecting directly into the Golden Light City and into the eagle's nest. And then you have the Wellisburg Castle connecting right down and through um, the horizontal ley line of the Golden Light City that's predicted to prophesize to emerge, connecting straight down into the eagle's nest as well. So it's created this triangulation here of these points and these intersections that are crossing. So I would say in terms of activated Stargate location, that this area here next to Munich, next to the Stargate Golden Light City emergence, that this would be probably the most heightened Stargate activity in Germany that is probably within this triangulation here, within this ley line. We tried to do some scoping last night to see what was inside here, but we didn't come across anything like too like significant just according to looking at the map. So I think it's more channeled. There's more like vortex under the ground here connecting into Telos. Um, what was this one here? This one was something significant. Oh, Lake Constance. Yes, Lake Constance. Lake Constance is also very significant for this as well. Lake Constance is a huge lake. A lot of people are doing spiritual and energy healing work at Lake Constance. So I think this is also very significant too. Obviously, it's within ley line, Soul River line distance to the Eagle's Nest, but also to the emergence of the Golden Light City. So this lake is also very important as well. But these two dots here, these are gray facilities and bases. So I think they're very aware. I think the negative ones are very aware of where the organic resources to alleviate through organic planetary ascension in the planet. And so they have a lot of things that are trying to combat this to happen. Let's see, this one is Wagner, Weiler. I have all of these listed here. Wagner is the Third Reich began to work on the construction. So they installed them. They installed them. This one here, Wagner, they installed this one. This was the Third Reich began to work on the construction of a partially underground bunker factory, code-named Weingut. 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 It's Weingut. Weingut. Okay? In the forest known as the Muldorfer Hart, slightly to the west of Muldorf, am in Upper Bavaria. Plans for the bunker called for a massive reinforced concrete barrel vault composed of 12 arc sections under which Messerschmitt Me 262 jet engines would be manufactured in a nine-story factory. Okay, so they're doing something over here with weaponry, probably to hijack Lake Constance, and to keep this area monitored. This is Bergkristallehut. Bergkristallehut. I'm not saying these correctly, so let me find that and I'll give you guys the spelling. It's Bergkristall, is a large underground complex covering an area of 75 acres near the town of St. Jorgen in Der Gusen in Austria. Whilst no documentary evidence has survived the war as to the bunker's purpose, it's believed that the Bergestall was an underground factory where they first were building UFO technology. Okay. Um, building UFO saucers. So yeah, these are gray bases around Lake Constance. Um, and a bunch of them are over here as well. So all of them that are in blue with the black ring around it. Now, if you guys want to go and sign up for my website at IndigoAngel222.com, my next newsletter that I put out, I'm going to put all this information out. So if you guys want this sent to you, I'll probably have that sent out over the next couple days. And obviously this energy update is to be continued. I am going to have to get off now, you guys, because I'm going to be having a meeting here pretty soon. But this is just kind of my first deep dive and insight on it, as so I can get more and more information as to where we're going and like what specifically needs to be done for the remote mission that we work on. Noko's here. Hey, Noko. Happy to assist. I'm told I have some German lineage. I think we all do. Just a little bit, right? Oh man. Uh, my family ancestry is from all over the place. One of my Irish ancestors was in World War One. Noko, I felt with you, yes, the German lineage. We will be doing the grid work war stuff for Slovenia. Okay, awesome. That's so amazing. Yeah, so we'll be working on this on 8/8. Be sure to come and sign up for the grid work. Mawa Hari says, sounds like part of the Nibirian Deodatic crystal implants. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even put those on the board. So that all connects in and ties in for sure. But yeah, we'll be decoding more of this. So hang tight, you guys. Until I get back into this next, till I deep dive back into this next and kind of see like where's the direction and all of this that we're going. But I think really it's to clear the ley line that's running from the Horn of Africa through the Orion Stargate systems, through Giza to the Eagle's Nest to the Wellisburg Castle. That's like a massive clearing. And then also to activate the Golden Light City in Braun. So yeah, well, I mean, we just want to call forth the most healing around this. We want to clear the distortions, clear all of the shame, guilt, the pain, the trauma, like just work to send so much unconditional aid and love and healing to this and just see if we can't shift some of these energies collectively. Because I think the earth is really calling for a bigger revolution within collective global healing. So yeah, guys, links will be down in the description. If you want to join me, again, sign up for the website email newsletter, and I'll get these locations out kind of like in an organized PDF for everyone. And yeah, I'll have that sent out as soon as I can over the next couple days. So, okay, guys, well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and namaste. I'll be back. Take care.